talked about the various types of data. We have quantitative, qualitative, right? So if we have variables and some are categorical or qualitative, like we ask of the gender of the person or the sex, we have the religion, and then we have, let's say, age of the person, weight of the person, salary of the person. Then it's like you have different data types. If you put them together, then you must put them under what we call data frames in R. Okay. Then lastly, we talk about what? List. So list is also a vector, just that each object in a list can be of any other data structure, including the list itself. Okay. So we can have vectors within the list, we can have data frames, and even a list within a list. Okay. So we have some examples, and I have we looked at some examples like the state.x77. That was a matrix. We realized that all the values were all numerical values, right? And then we looked at the anorexia data from the mass package. That one had the first variable being the treatment type, which is either control, cognitive behavioral treatment, or what? Family treatment. So these are categorical. You cannot be receiving CBT and family treatment at the same time, or serve as control, and so forth. Okay. So now, when we have any of these data types, we were able to know, talk about what is already in R, right? And then I said we can create our own. So we did weight and what? Age, we were able to put them together. But if we have, we put religion together with them, then we're going to get or distort the data. So that's what I want us to do now. So let's look at what we did yesterday. The math. So we put them together. They were, now what I want us to do is to create a vector of our religion for the 5 people, right? Then we will try and put them together as data frame, as a matrix, and see the differences or what happens. Okay, so let's create religion. So for religion, we have 5. So maybe the first person is a Christian. So here, for characters, if you want to create a string, you need to put them in double quotation marks. The single one is also okay, but I usually will use double quotation marks. So the next person may be Muslim. The next person is maybe traditionalist. The next person may be Christian. And then lastly, what? Muslim, maybe. Okay, so I assume that we have this. So if you look over here, you will see religion. You see that religion is what? CHR. CHR is what? Character. Yeah. So, but when we talk about weight, it's what? Numeric. And so forth. Okay. So when I finish, I'm going to list what we term as data types in R. But data types are the characters, the numeric, the missing values, factor, and so forth. Dates, what have you. Okay. Now, so, yes. Oh, I decided that the first person is a Christian, the next person is a Muslim, the third person traditionally, the next person Christian. It's up to you, so you can choose it. You can. You can. You maybe, so it depends. All of them may be Christians, or maybe Muslims, and so forth. So this is just an example. Okay. So now, let me create a matrix now. Okay? And you realize what I was talking about. Now, so this matrix, I call it math 1. Okay. So that's a name. You can choose any name for it. So remember yesterday we talked about C bind and what? R bind. The C bind means we are putting them on column wise, right? And so forth. Okay. So the first one is age. The next one is weight. I select, then religion. Now, what do you think will happen? What did we say are the characteristics of a matrix? If we have a matrix in now, what it contains what data types? Only one. Good. Now you see that age is numeric, weight is numeric, religion is what? Character or qualitative, right? So let's see what happens. So our math, you see now everything in there changes to what? Character, which is the lowest level of measurement, which is nominal. So if I display this, all of them will be in what? In quotation marks. So this is to show us that when we have different data types, if we want to store it, it is best to use what? A data frame. Is everybody okay? If it is rectangular. If it is not rectangular, we can put it in what? In a list. Because a list can also contain what? Different data types. So that's it. So what we should be doing is that we should rather be creating what? Data frame. What did we say? So let's say this one, we call it df math. So here we are going to say data.frame, so that's it. And then we just input in this. Sorry. We input in the variables. What happens? So we display this. You see now it's displayed without all those quotation marks. So here you see that it preserves all the actual type of what? The data. If it is numeric, it appears as numeric. If it is character, it appears as what? A character. So, okay. So that's the essence of what? Data here. What is happening to this? Okay. Good. Okay, now, if you check on your WhatsApp page, I have put some data sets over there. So let's download it and look at it. So the first one is default data. I actually got it over here. So from is it UB? UCI, yeah. So that's University of California, I think. Yeah. So they have several data sets. So I just picked this, which is a data set on what? Customers of banks. It's the default payments in Taiwan. Okay, so this is real data set. Okay, so I downloaded it. If you can't get it online, from your WhatsApp page, you can also type data set to UCI and then get it from here. Okay, so let's assume we want to use this for a project, or you've been given this data to work on it. And then you have it downloaded like this. So it's zipped, so you have to unzip it. And then you have the data like this. Okay, so this is the data. It's quite big, 5.28 megabytes. Remember, it's made up of what, 30,000 individuals or customers. So it's quite big. Okay, so let's see how. So we want to look at this data. So there it is. So this is the data. I think it has educational level. Limit balance will be, I think, the limit of the credit card. The sex, 1, 2, educational level, 1, 2, 3. So this one, we're going to, the limit balance. What do you think, what type of data is this? It's what? It's numeric, right? Okay. So as I said, we need to be able to determine whether the data set is numeric, okay, quantitative in this case, and then what else? What is the scale of measurement? So when you have a data, we said it can be what? Quantitative or what? Qualitative, categorical, or what? Qualitative. Okay. Then, if it is quantitative, we can even check whether it is what? Continuous or what? Discrete. Yeah. Discrete, okay. Then we also have the scales of measurement. So I'm going to look at the scales of measurement. The scales of measurement, we have 4 of them. So here, if it is qualitative, we can, it can either be nominal or ordinal. And then when it is quantitative, then we can have what? Interval or what? Ratio. So if you look at the limit balance, we say it's quantitative, right? Is it continuous or discrete? It's continuous, yeah. Because you can have point something, right? Yeah. And is it interval or ratio? Ratio, because if it is 0, it means you don't have any balance, right? Yeah. So there's a true 0 point. 0 means there's nothing. All right. Okay. But the sex is what? 1, 2. Is it quantitative? It is categorical. But we have 1 and 2. We are just using the number to represent a group. Is that okay? So it's actually categorical. 1 means maybe female. 2 means maybe male, or vice versa. Okay, so that's how we will look at it. What about the educational level? Okay, so the sex, what is the scale of measurement? Is it nominal or ordinal? Nominal, because whether you're 1 or 2, there is no order attached to it. We cannot say that 1 is what? Bigger than 2 or whatever. It is just group. Okay. Now, what about educational level? It's 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Is it quantitative or qualitative? It is what? Qualitative or categorical. Why? Because maybe we have no education. Maybe primary, secondary, tertiary, and so forth. Okay. What scale of measurement would we use for this? You sure? Ordinal. Good, yeah. Because maybe if you are at the university level, we know that you have been to school more than what? The one at the lower level. And so forth. So that's it. So we are beginning to understand all this stuff. Okay. So later on, we will be checking some of this. Then the default is either 1 or what? 0. Usually 1 will be that you defaulted. And then 0 will mean what? Not default. Okay. So later on, we will be coming back to this data. We can check whether those who default, their balance is more than those who do not default, and so forth. We can compare them. Then we can also check whether your educational level influence your default status. Is that okay? We will be looking at some of these tests, and you'll be doing some of the theoretical aspects in your other classes. But here, we will just be using softwares to implement all those measures. So we'll be doing those t-tests, analysis of variance, and so forth. Is everybody okay with it? Okay. But for us to be able to analyze this data, we must get it in R. So how do we get this in R? Well, there are several ways to do this. And we're going to see how we can do that. Now, what you need to know is that here, if you want to read any data into R, if you want to name it like this, the variable names must be on the same row. So if you look at this data, it's like we have 2 rows for the same variable name. I will not be able to read this, because it will only take 1 row as a name. So if you take the other row, then here, limit balance will be part of 20. It will distort it. It will make it what? Character. So you have to decide what to do. But if you come back to where this data is, they have explained what the data set is. Okay, so X1 is a feature. It is type integer. And it is what? Just the limit balance. Okay. X2 is also a feature. It is an integer. It is what? The sex and so forth. So I think we can use the second the second row to rather name our columns rather than the X1, X2. That doesn't really give us any meaningful name. So we can delete that one. Is everybody okay with it? So this is data. You are setting up your data to enable you what? Analyze it. Is everybody okay? So let's delete that one. So once we delete it, now we have what? Only 1 row for our data. Okay, like this. Okay. So now, R also, in some cases, it is unable to read a sentence like that. It's not even good to name your variable with that long sentence. Is everybody okay? All you need to know is default. So I can delete that and just say default. Or if I want, I can just say default underscore what? Status. If you want it that way. You can see. So the last column is default, but it was a sentence. It's not good to be naming your variables with what? A sentence. If you do even a regression, then your X1 is like a sentence. I mean, it's not good. Just get one word for it. Oh, why is this? It's a cable, right? You give us another one. These things, I think once we do one, we must just leave it. And so we don't remove it. If people will not steal it, that's the problem. So should I remove that one? And we should get it. But I think we should be leaving it so that we don't remove it back and forth. So I think once we do that, everything is, let's see, educational level, marriage, age, yeah, so it's okay now. Pay 1, pay 0, pay. We have to go and check what they are. I think we need to get the narratives. Oh, but the paper. So this is a paper. So you can look at it when you are doing your paper review. These are some of the papers you can use. So this is the comparison of what data mining techniques for what predictive accuracy of what probability of default of credit card client. So this is a paper, and the data they use for it is what we have access to now. Okay. So maybe if you have time, when you go read the paper, you will know what pay 1, pay 2 is. Yeah, we don't have time now to be going through it. Okay. So now let's save it, but save it in the folder you created. Is that okay? So save it as maybe credit card client. If I'm saving this, I'll just save it a credit card. Credit card client, something like that. Okay. So what do? You just go to the folder you created and save it in that folder. Okay. All right. So I've saved mine. Then I go to, once you save it, you can go to app. So first of all, you delete the first row, you save it, and then you go to app. Okay, once you are in our studio, check over here. This place is all import all. Import. So just click. It is actually import data. So you just click on that. Yes, so we are actually importing it from what? Excel. So please do that. Click on import from Excel. If you open your app from the folder, it should go straight to the folder. If not, it means you have not set your working directory, so you can set it. Exit and then set it. If you remember, the first thing we talked about setting your working directory. You go to session, and so let's see. So yeah, you have it. Okay, so you haven't even saved your script. So save it, save the script first. Yeah, save it in the folder you created for this. Yes, you need the package. Then wait. The data is big, so it will take time to. Yeah. So. And the package read. You are not perfect. Have you seen it? It says. Yeah, because. No, you can. This thing should be fine. You see, it's rectangular, so it must, this one, you must have 5 because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each person must have a related. Other than that, when you put them together, it will not make a difference. first time you read it, you need the read X out to be loaded. Yes, that's a good one. Yes, so something like that. So, X and then brown. How do you say that? Yeah, there it is. Yes. Yes, yeah. No, now you can yes, so now, so it's set. So now you can go to import pages. Yeah, so you have delete the first. And then this one. Yeah, delete the first row.
Is that for me? No. Then you don't want to close.
We'll close very soon. Is it 7?
Is it 7 already? What time am I supposed to start?
7.
7. I sure.
6:30.
6:30. No. You are fast here.
And then the last button. You have to change the it shouldn't be a section. It should tell you what it so now you can say, but save it in the folder. That is it. Have you gotten it? So what's the name of it? Okay, so who has been able to import it? Okay. Yes. So here you can the name if you want. Let's change it to maybe credit card. Delete the first row. If you are not using a business, you have to bring it. So not like that. When you have to do it, they become, haven't been able to use it. Okay, that's it. So, good. Have you been able to use it? You have been good. Okay. Yes. Good. Okay. Okay, so now go to report. What is that? Religion. It's already important. But first of all, go to session. You see this one is in document. So now set your working directory to where you are saying that so now you see it's in that. What is it? Why you did not have it? Where is your, where are you going to save it? Just copy it. And then go and get your folder or the course name. your environment. You see the data in the environment. So then now we can have access to the data. Is that okay? So before we still have some time, let us do some descriptive statistics to see. So first of all, we want to see how many people defaulted, how many did not default. What kind of graph can we use to display that? The default status. Bar graph. Good. So we can use bar graph or maybe the pie. So but how do you construct a bar graph? No, if I were to give you, so go to the data. So you have, if you go to the last column, you have what? Ones and zeros, isn't it?
Yes.
Good. So if I were to write this on the board 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, and you want to create a bar chart, what are you going to do? In order to, you have to create a frequency table. Is that okay? Good. Okay. So it's the same principle we use in that. We have just the raw data. So for us to create a bar chart, we want to do something like this. You see, something like this to maybe like this. If this is 1 and this is 0, they will say majority of the people are defaulting. Is that okay? Another graph we can use is what? Yeah, something like that. But for us to be able to do this, it means we must get this frequency. So how do we need to table it? Previously, you would have done, what is it? This one is default, so 1, then you be counting. Isn't it? Like that, and then you get, so that's it. In R, we can say tablet. Or it's a tablet here, something like that. Either table or tablet. So let's see. We must see some graphs before we leave. Okay, so I don't have my own, so let me also do my own. Quite. So like this is what we said you should do. So credit card. You can, so you come here if you want to change the name. You see R has now underscored them. Yeah. So I can just put as a credit card, then I import. So it's like that. Okay, so once you have, I think this one wants us to close. It is saying that it's time. Okay, so please just do what I need you to do is just say default. So maybe, let me do it here. So default, maybe default frequency, something like that. So I'm going to say, no, it's in table. I call credit card, and then I put the $sign. I look for default status, and then I do this. So this, yeah, so table, right? We want to create it. So that's what you do. When you call the name of your data, if you put the $sign, remember the data now is what? A data frame. You see it? It says credit card is what? 30,000 observations of what? 25 variables. And you see that it is in a data frame form, right? Because we have several of them. So table, then you call the name. I stored mine as credit cards. If you did credit, just credit. So whatever you did, then you put the $sign there. The $sign will bring all the variables that you have in that data, right? Okay, and then you scroll to take what? The default status. If you stored it as only default, you only see default. I did my default status. So like that, and then you run it. So when you run it, you get the frequency for the default. So out of the 30,000, 6,636 people defaulted. We can even find the total. If we sum the frequency, what are we going to get? The total, which means I can get a percentage as well. Please, are you okay? No. What is the problem? The table. Create a frequency table. Okay, so what I'm saying is that we are going to create, that's the assignment statement, right? We're going to table the default status. In other words, we count how many ones we have in there, how many zeros we have in there. So we have to give it a name, the table name, and I gave my default underscore frequency. Is that okay? Then I assign it, then I call the function table because I want to get a tabular form. The frequency, yes. And then the name of the way you store your data. That's why I said you shouldn't be naming your data or variable with what? A sentence. Just one word is enough. No, but it's still your data, no. But you see, look at what you have. You say GTA underscore sound, but you are writing the different thing all together. So what you need to do is it should be showing what is happening in the road. And that is something so this one is so I can see here. So start by take it down, then you select it. Then you put the dollars. Good. Okay. So you see all this thing will be dropped. You know what is there? Default is table. Run only the name. Yeah, the default phrase. No, and the Oh, you guys have.
Oh, there.
Let me do this one here for you. Okay. So let's look over here. So what I said was this. You see, this is my data. You named yours. Look over here. So you see, once you create your data, you have credit. If you save it credit, it will only be credit. I saved my what? Credit _ cards. Is that okay? And you see 30,000 observation of what? 25 variables. Okay. So if I want to get if I click on it, it shows me all the variables. Bill amount, the default status. So if you save your own default, it will only be default. So if you save your own default, you cannot now write default _ status. I will not know what you are talking about. Is that okay? So you can only retrieve what name you gave it. That's all. That's how we should look at it. Is everybody okay with it? Okay. So now, I want to create a table of what? The default status. So what do? First of all, I must do an assignment statement. And my assignment statement, name it default _ freq. And I assign it this. So I say call table. So as soon as you start typing table, it will appear. Then you click on it like this. Then it is asking you to input what? An argument. What argument are you going to input in? The data you stored. What is the name? Credit, maybe credit _ card, whatever. So, but as soon as you start typing, any name with credit will appear. If that is your data, so this one shows me that this is my data. You see the other ID, limit, and so forth. So I just double click on it, and then it goes in. But that's not what I want. This is the entire data. What am I interested in? Only the default status, right? Okay. So what do? I'll put the $sign. This is what we call selection. So if you put it there, it will select all the variables. It will show you all the variables, but you can select only one at a time. So we go in, what are we interested in? Is the last one, which is what? Default status. So you see, I'm not typing on my own. If you type on your own, you will make mistakes. Because our is case sensitive, so only develop the habit of what? Selecting. And so forth. So we select it like this, and that's it. So now I can run it. Now, when you run it, it will store it as a default status. If you want to run and display it at the same time, you can put all this in parentheses, like this. So if you do that, then when you run it, it will store it and at the same time display it on the screen. So there it is. Okay. So that's what we have done. So now we have created a table, and we can now get a bar graph of our table, then we can close. So you do your other. So the name of my table is the same principle. You create your frequency table and then you do a bar graph like that. It doesn't look nice. It's because of the way I have expanded my screen. Okay, so you can do it better. Your own will look better. I want to close the margins. Okay, it's like this. We can color it. The color we can select, let's say red. You see as I start typing it, and then yellow. So R knows the colors. We can use percentages and all and so forth. So, yeah. So you see, I've done my table. The way we do a bar plot is a function bar plot. As you start typing, it will appear, you select. And then the default status, I want to color it. I can do a whole lot. I can turn it this way, but it will come back to plots and so forth. This is to show you that when we have data, we can do some of these things. So now, at least we know how to read a data from Excel into R. If it is text, remember the first one you saw was text. So we can save it as text and also read it the same way we did with Excel. So that's it. And I think that should be enough. Let me see if they are coming. Or I continue.